Alright. Okay. So, I have no idea what I'm really doing with my life going forward, but I have a little dream here, and as you can see, I want to be a writer. Will it go well? Probably not. I don't have a lot of faith in myself, but this should be the first of hopefully many little entries, little episode thingies. I don't really know. Kind of just winging it as we go. This won't be anything super long or expansive or in depth, but maybe some other time I'll go a bit more in depth. Yes. Right. So for the first, well, I had this idea and I scrapped it, and I think now I want to commit. Partially why I'm doing this is because I kind of have commitment issues to certain projects, especially longer and more tasking ones, but this hopefully should keep me focused, keep me on track, and maybe I can document my journey to actually becoming what I envision for myself maybe in 10-15 years. So, ideas for a future trilogy. It's not really super in-depth because I'm kind of just spitballing a little bit. Magic. There will be magic, obviously. Well, not obviously. I like fantasy a lot. I'm a big fantasy guy. I haven't really read too many books. I just recently really got into books, like a few years ago. I really got into books, and fantasy is just, it's just fun all across the board. There's so much you can do with it. High fantasy, I like high fantasy to a degree, but I am thinking grimdark. I love grimdark because I like darker stories. I feel like they are easier to tap into, and it's easier to make it your own in a sense, because there's so much high fantasy, but grimdark, it's like, yeah, there's a lot out there, but it's difficult to kind of make something brand new in a high fantasy sort of world. And I could also do a mix of both. Maybe I can just try and do something cool, a mix of horror, action, and drama. I do kind of want some horror in there. I'm not particularly a great horror writer. Get to that later. Action, obviously I have to have action and drama. There's got to be drama in a fantasy series. Map. I suck at drawing. I'm a decent writer at best, but I will probably try and map out some sort of map. I will need to come up with names, which I absolutely suck at, but I have to come up with names for different places and their histories and their cultures, because world building is important. Pantheon, which has abandoned humanity. Now, this is typical shit. It's very typical, but I want to make this my own in a certain way. I was thinking gods were very present on Earth, and were basically solving humans' problems all the time, being approached all the time, and eventually they started seeing that the humans were creating more problems, which meant that they were having to do more things. And instead of the humans fixing their problems, they were just making more problems, making it more difficult for the gods to handle everything. So I was thinking the gods eventually just hated that idea and were like, no, we're not going to help you anymore. And they just leave. And whether that's leave to a different world, whether that's leave to their own realm of some kind, I don't really know. I'm thinking about it. Multiple POVs. Now, I read a lot of fantasy books with multiple POVs. It's fun. It's difficult to do multiple POVs because you do have to think of multiple different arcs and stories and the characters they meet, and there's different personalities with each of them, and you have to flesh them out while also making each of their stories engaging for the people reading. I have had books that I've read that I still really do love that have POVs, and some are more boring than others. Of course, they do get better, but that one's a maybe, because I'm also thinking maybe one character could just be going on a journey and then have people around them that are kind of like main characters, but not really. Make it unique and make it your own. I tapped a little bit on this when I was talking about high fantasy and like the genre itself, but for a book, it's difficult to make something that's super unique and super different because there's so much out there, and I really just want to make this my own. Even if it's not particularly amazing, I just want to make it because I like telling stories, and I just can't get enough of telling more and more stories, even if the way I tell them isn't the way other people want to or like to tell them. And 200-400 pages. I'm a big fan of longer books, but at the same time, I don't know if I can commit to something like 500 pages, 600 pages. That's a lot. It really is. I've tried before. It is surprisingly a lot, and that's for a trilogy. So that's 240 pages per book. I'd have to get more in depth with, characters that could be in it, storylines, character arcs themselves, but we will see where that goes. But then I also have, just in case, I always like to have a separate story going on along with my longer projects, because having a story that's shorter, easier to maintain, and still really fun to write is always a good thing. It's shorter, it's sweeter, and if you ever get bored of that or running out of ideas, write something else. The ideas will flow to you as you write. Woman carrying a dead body. I had a dream recently. A nightmare? I guess not really. A dream of some kind, and it involved a woman carrying a dead body, and her realizing that I was looking at her through a window and saw her, and she stood outside of my window with a gun. I don't know how I'm gonna really do that. I'm not particularly a good horror writer. I'll get to that at the end there, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to do this because I really, it was the first nightmare I've not ever had, but the first nightmare in a long time that actually had me a little, I woke up a little scared. Maze of a House. I am yet to read House of Leaves. It is on my reading list, but I have no idea what it's about, but it sounds cool in a way, and I like houses, and I like houses being familiar but unfamiliar in a way, and it's very uncanny and sort of terrifying, but also a little cozy. I like the idea of having some normalcy, but not really normal. If anyone is watching this, you should understand, I guess. Mental health struggles. Mental health is typical for any sort of anything. A lot of writing incorporates mental health all the time, and I like talking about mental health because it is something that pretty much everyone can sort of relate to in this day and age. Life isn't great. Imagery. I want it to be based on imagery. Now, I think I specialize in imagery in a sense, so imagery would definitely be up there. I want it to be very imagery based because with horror, there's not going to be many conversations. There's not going to be many of anything like that. A lot of it has to be describing the surroundings, describing what you're seeing, describing what the main character feels, and you have to have that imagery of everything. And this will probably be first person because third person is not as fun when doing horror, so it will definitely probably be first person. Or I could try and mix it up and do like a second person sort of weird scenario. I haven't fully fleshed this out. yes, I want it to be dark, but I feel like being over the top dark is super corny. I personally love dark stuff. I like it when people aren't afraid to just uncensor themselves and speak their minds and speak what sort of horrors can really go on in the world. So I want it to be dark, but I don't want it to be too corny and goofy and over the top, because it's just not the way it should be, even if it is horror. So no body horror and stuff, or maybe body horror, but not like over the top gore and stuff like that, because I just don't want that. And it probably won't be that great. It will be fun though, hopefully. I don't write horror ever. This would be my second time writing horror, and the only other time was a short story I did for creative writing class. So it probably won't be good, but I'm really looking forward to it because it's something new, and I think new is always exciting, while also a little terrifying and ambitious. But yes, I hopefully will have a second version of this, another page or two of ideas. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm not really sure. There's no script, there's no anything. I just want to follow my dream, and maybe one day somebody will stumble across this and be inspired. Hopefully. I really hope so. This is my passion, and I couldn't ask for a better life if I am able to make it doing what I love. So yeah. Thank you. If you are watching, if anyone is watching, thank you. And I hope this journey isn't being taken alone. Have a nice rest of your day.